Welcome to an episode of Spring Cleaning. Today is all about the mind and emotions, and I'm joined by my friend, Dr. Jen, who is going to give us some insight on some questions that our members submitted today. So I'm excited to get into this conversation. A lot of people feel like their brain is constantly on right now. What's actually happening there, and why do we feel so mentally full?
Where should we start? So we are mentally full. A big part of that is we are on information overload. We are walking around at all times with major computers in our pockets, and we don't always put them away. So we are just inundated with information, and we don't know how to parse it out. We don't know where to put our attention. So the cognitive load we all carry is just heavier. Add to that, our day-to-day lives are more complicated because the world we live in is more anxious, because housing crisis happens, inflation is high, the political climate is charged. And then how does that impact our own lives, right? Maybe we have a sick kid, maybe we are the sandwich generation and are parenting and are then taking care of our parents. So, it's just like coming at us all the time. And most of us aren't doing a really good job of exhaling and just being like, okay, I'll figure out where I need to put my attention. We just think we have to do it all at the same time. And that is just really overwhelming.
One of the biggest things is being good at multitasking, right? And people pride themselves on being good multitaskers. It was always told to me when I was a child, you should be great at doing multiple things. I've realized at this stage in my life that I'd like to spend my time on one thing at a time. And I don't know if you agree or disagree with that sort of mindset, but I've found that sort of framework helps me do the thing much better versus operating at 60% on all the things I'm trying to do.
It's so great that you can notice that for yourself, because multitasking is a myth. You actually are not multitasking. You're task switching, but you're doing it so quickly that it seems like you're multitasking. It seems like you're doing two things at the same time. Now, brushing your teeth and listening to a podcast is a different kind of multitask, right? Because neither one of them is very challenging or needs all of your attention.
Sure.
But something simple like, I'm talking to you and texting, neither thing is getting my full attention. I'm switching between texting, talking to you. I'm not actually multitasking. The truth is that in that task switch, you are not giving anything 100%. So to be able to say, I'm gonna pay attention to this assignment, whatever that assignment you're giving you, and do it, you will be faster, more efficient, and make fewer errors. And then you can move on to the next thing.
I hope everyone heard everything you said, because I always get, I can do this, and this at the same time,
And by the way, as you get older, I used to be like, I'm the best multitasker. As I've gotten older, I find that I am a horrific multitasker. Only hears every third word, or I'm only reading every third word in an email. But if I give you my full attention, we get through what we need to get done, and then I can do the next thing, and it's so much better.
I will say that when we talked the first time, that's the one thing I noticed about you. You were so dialed in. We were having conversation, and it's far and few people that I think do that or have that skill set. How do we distinguish between being productive and just mentally busy?
Again, you guys are nailing it.
I love that you
love it. Productivity is goal accomplishing. I set a goal, I do the things I need to get to the goal, and I accomplish the goal. Mental busyness is diffuse. It's like, I don't know where I'm putting my attention. I don't know what to do. Everything's kind of juggled in the air, and I'm actually incapable of being super effective. All of that busyness and diffuseness is part of what contributes to our burnout.
When you get to burnout, sometimes you are so tired from everything that you've been experiencing, you kind of explode, right? And so a lot of times you'll see people react when they get to that point, to the people they love or are closest to usually.
Very often burnout appears differently, right? So some people, their burnout is like irritability and frustration and a lot of internal and external dysregulation. For other people, it's almost like this numbness. I find when I'm burnt out, I know I'm burnt out when I just don't care. Like I really get to this weird, numbed, attached, whatever kind of space. And then I'm like, oh wait, what, right? I work in a job that I have to show up, I have to be present, I have to have emotional connection. So when I notice that's happening, I have to hit pause and really do some inventory on like what's happening, why am I burnt out, what can I let go of, who can I ask for help from, which is probably the hardest thing for most of us because it's seen as weakness to have to ask for help. And if I'm supposed to be productive, I'm supposed to be productive. But again, it can get toxic, which only makes our We kind of try to work through the burnout, which then actually people quit their jobs over that, their relationships end over that.
Right. Boundaries is something that I had to start to create and set, especially when you work in service where you're giving to other folks. There's a guilt associated with not showing up. And showing up for yourself is still just as important. So it was like a skill set that I'm still trying to hone in on.
Boundaries are hard because they actually have a really bad rap. What do you mean you're saying no? What do you mean, right? And so we feel guilty because we're letting someone down. Some people feel shame. So there's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. But if I'm supposed to be the person that you rely on all the time, then I'm clearly bad if I can't show up. And then I feel guilty because I let you down. And the truth is that it is way better to disappoint other people than yourself because that's their problem. I don't have to take on your disappointment. If you're ever feeling disappointment or let down, like you figure that out. Doesn't mean I shouldn't have set a boundary, but guilt forces us to say, I need to fix it. The people-pleasing part of me starts to percolate. We work in service for a reason. I mean, let's be honest. We work in service for a reason, but it's really important to let other people have their guilt. Your disappointment is yours, not mine. And my other favorite thing to remind everybody is no is a full sentence. You might be like, should I? If you say no and you can kind of drop an anchor and be like, that was the best decision I made, or I really needed that, there is no question there.
No is my favorite word in my 40s.
It's such an important word.
What role do unprocessed emotions play in our mental health when it comes to feeling overwhelmed?
Unprocessed emotions are something every one of us has. So let's just to take the stigma of it off the table. We all have things we don't process. Some of us may never need to process them. They kind of just dissipate in there and they become part of who we are. But we are often, I don't love the word triggered because I think it's now being used as a weapon. I think it's very weaponized, but in the truest sense of the word, I could come in and you and I feel a connection and it triggers all sorts of warm memories for me of other people that I have felt that way because it is a trigger point and that's just what it is. But if someone's a jerk to me and I'm already feeling overwhelmed because there's so much going on, it's gonna bring up times that other people were a jerk to me. And if I've never really worked through that, it's like I just opened the floodgate. So it's important to be able to stop and be like, what did this just bring up for me? And is that okay? Because Adrian is not the person that was that jerk to me 7 years ago, and we need to keep those things separate. So it does overwhelm us because it's like, water.
Maybe that's something that I'm trying to deal with in a personal way, but these relationships that we've had that we get stuck in, or like you said, sometimes it's a smell, sometimes it's a sound, sometimes it's a word, not associating them with the bad things that have happened to us in the past. And it's an easy thing to gravitate towards when you're feeling overwhelmed or a certain way.
It's vulnerability.
Yes.
At its core, vulnerability is so hard for us to embrace, and yet it's the thing that makes us most human. My vulnerability allows us to connect. You saying, this was really hard for me, is being vulnerable, and I can say, I'm so sorry. I can offer to help you, or I can just validate it, but we are in it together. We're sharing the load, you're not in it by yourself.
Right.
And most people are afraid of being vulnerable because they think it's weakness. It's not weakness. I think vulnerability is incredible strength.
Yes, I agree.
And if I see where you're vulnerable, I do know what your trigger point is. So I can poke at it and annoy you. And we all have those people in our lives that always know where to poke.
Yes, we do. Oh man, I mean, we can go on. But we won't stay too long on that one. Now, you specialize in emotional regulation. For someone who feels overwhelmed or reactive, what does it actually look like to regulate your emotions in real time?
Let's talk about what it looks like to be dysregulated, because
Okay.
I think we need to know what it looks like first to be able to know how to solve it. So imagine you were on a boat in the sea, the waves start to get bigger, and your boat is just like flailing. You're all over the place in the water, and you don't have anything that anchors you. So now we're wondering, is my boat gonna capsize? I'm so overwhelmed. Is it gonna splinter apart? The sea of emotion just kind of gets us overwhelmed. When we are dysregulated with the boat, we don't know how to drop an anchor. So emotion regulation strategies are the anchor. It doesn't mean your boat will not rock in the waves, because it will. It just means it's not gonna splinter and fall apart. So emotion regulation skills are usually things you already do, but you do them when you're calm. So if you love to listen to music, your first thought may not be, I should blast that song that I love that makes me diffuse all of the frustration when I'm feeling dysregulated, and just the only thing, I don't multitask, I just blast the song and maybe dance around my room. Exhale. Now I can go back and do whatever it is I need to do. If you ever watch a dog or a cat, when they are overwhelmed, what do? They shake. That shake resets their nervous system. So you can shake your arms out, stand up, and look like you've lost your mind, just shaking it out, but that resets things for us. So music, movement, taking the time to drink your water really slowly and really focus on it. Mindfully dropping in, paying attention, 5 minutes. You don't need a long time. Most people are like, oh, I should go mindfully meditate for an hour.
Right.
Can you mindfully pay attention to the music for 5 minutes? The intensity comes down and then you can problem solve. When we're overly dysregulated, our frontal lobe, planning, organization, problem solving shuts off because our body goes into survival mode. And I have to figure out how to protect myself. Fight or flight, we don't need it anymore in the same way. We are not being chased by tigers. I mean, it might feel like we're being chased by tigers.
I was gonna say, I don't know about you, this time. No.
Right. That last time you were chased by a tiger. But it still serves a function. It's a warning sign.
Sure.
But the key is, can I be warned before I'm at the top of the mountain and all I really can do is kind of ride the wave back down? So noticing, tapping in, not ignoring those signs that something feels off. And when, to go back to our earlier question of productivity versus overwhelm, if I am overwhelmed, I'm not paying attention to the warning signs, which prevents me from being productive.
Now, would you say that most folks don't have these tool sets? Because I do think a lot of people don't know what to do. And so there's the one thing that they know. And because I work in wellness, a lot of people will say, I'm gonna go do a hard workout. They immediately want to beat themselves down. And what I've always tried to share without being overly prescriptive is that's still stress on your body. And it's hard to get people to pull away from that stress because the stress feels good. So anyways, going back to the tool sets, do you think a lot of folks have these tools?
A lot of us just forget to use the skills we have, right? So if I'm feeling good and it's a beautiful day out and I say, I'm gonna walk the 15 blocks home, listen to a book, listen to my favorite music, I notice that I feel calmer, but I started calmer. So I think people probably have more of the skills than they realize, but they don't bridge them over to, oh, I don't feel good. Maybe that walk and listening to that book will make me feel better. Because I also think we want to feel better right away, which is why sometimes that hard workout, because we feel like we're working, makes us feel better. It's gonna be different for anybody. You and I are not gonna have the same things that work for us. We'll have overlap, but depending on the thing that I'm dysregulated about, there are days where I am angry and frustrated and pissed off at everybody, that a really hard workout is exactly what I need because I need that diffusion. Or I like to watch beat 'em up, shoot 'em up, blow up building movies, right? Because it's very cathartic for me.
Sure.
Not my normal thing that I like to watch, but when I'm like really pissed off, that's where I'm going. But for some people who think, oh, I'm feeling really sad, I'm gonna go watch a weepy movie or listen to weepy songs, they should do the exact opposite of that. They should listen to something that's more upbeat, some comedy, some whatever, because otherwise it pulls them into that vortex of doom. When you're not dysregulated, stop and think about the things you enjoy, and then figure out how to incorporate them into when you are dysregulated. So that may mean making a list on your phone so you do not have to think about it. Music, movement, talking to a friend, getting my favorite non-alcoholic beverage, sitting in the sun with my face turned toward it for 5 minutes, petting my dog. Any of those kinds of things will reset us, and we do them all the time. It's just doing them in the moments we really need them.
Now, if someone is feeling constantly scattered or overstimulated, what's the first place they should start to clear that?
Put your phone down.
I think we should all have a shirt that says, put your phone down.
Right, and it's ironic, right?
Yes.
It's ironic because so much of the information we get is social media, so it's a catch-22. But what are you consuming? Most of us wake up and the first thing we do is reach for their phone. Now I'm automatically on information overload. Putting your phone down resets us. Turning your phone on Do Not Disturb resets us. It allows us to be in conversation without what's happening on my phone, what's happening in the news. And if you have to be on your phone, can you curate your news feed? There's this new movement of bloom scrolling over doom scrolling. So can I make it all dogs and cat and kindness videos and all the things that are still important maybe, but they make me feel better. And then what we notice is I'm on my phone less. When I doom scroll, I'm passively engaged and everything's being fed to me and my dopamine goes in the toilet and I'm looking for dopamine, so I'm staying engaged. But if I set it up to have dopamine, feel good stuff, things that are making me smile, I don't need to be on it as much because I'm already feeling refilled.
Now, are there simple daily practices that people can use to declutter their mind and physical space?
Yes. Things to think about, right? I think decluttering your physical space, for me anyway, is like step one, right? A cluttered space is a cluttered mind for me. That's not true for everybody. My neurodiverse husband, who has pretty bad ADHD, he doesn't see the clutter. It's hard in my marriage, but because I am not a clutter person. I like things in their space. But to him, it's like he knows where everything is in his clutter. And his clutter works for him. But for many of us, cluttered space means cluttered mind. So check in with yourself on whether or not that resonates. Another really important element of that is, what's the routine that you create for yourself? Everybody should have a routine. Our bodies and minds thrive on structure. Too much structure, maybe not so great. But can you have structure with some kind of wiggle room, right? So I like to think about it as like a bowling alley with the bumpers on it. So it keeps you in your lane, but you have movement in the lane.
Sure.
So what's your routine? What things do you protect within that routine? My workout space is my protected time, but what's yours? Maybe it's the morning coffee. Once your kids get up, once everything happens, everything's chaos, and you decide that you're gonna wake up 20 minutes earlier to have quiet alone time, or maybe that's when you journal. And then who are your safe people? We all have one or two safe people that are your people. That, my best friend messages me yesterday, hey, can I vent for a second? And my response to her was that a rhetorical question? And the phone rang, right? Because she's like, I just need to get this out there. And I was like, great. So who are those people that can be your reality check, that can say, hey, I think you're burnt out, that can remind you that taking space and taking time and resting is really okay. Most of us think it's okay for everybody but ourselves.
That's very true. And I think being able to call those people, whether you are in fight or flight mode, essentially, or if you're having a great day, right? Like I always say that sometimes you should be able to call these people who champion you in that way too. It shouldn't always be negative, but I do think sometimes that people just want to talk to people and not with people. And I think it's really important when you are feeling that way, when you're trying to declutter, or you're going through emotional stress, that you have someone who can actually give you a back and forth, not just say yes. Sometimes it's also healthy to hear that maybe the thing that you think or your opinion could potentially be wrong, or could potentially be seen in a different light. I think that's also important.
There's 3 questions you can ask somebody in that moment. Am I listening? Am I helping? And for parents, am I intervening? I don't necessarily have to intervene in an adult relationship, but if the kid is having a hard time with a teacher, a parent might need to step in. I do think there's some real merit in those 3 questions. My dad used to say this to me: what ears do I need to be paying attention with? Am I just letting you vent? Do you need me to help you solve this problem? And then, do you need me to step in? Do you need me to get involved here? I ask my friends those questions too. My friend was like, I just need to vent. I was like, cool, got it.
Go ahead.
And then I did have an opinion. So I was like, can I share what I'm thinking with you? Or do you just not want that right now? And she was like, I don't really want it. I was like, cool. And I can't be offended by that, right? Like, she's entitled to say no. She's entitled to set a boundary. Those 3 questions I think are really helpful in relationships.
That is really helpful. We've reached my favorite part. We're gonna play rapid fire with Dr. Jen. Dr. Jen, I'm gonna ask you a few things and you just tell me whatever comes to your mind.
All right, let's do it.
Emotions don't disappear, they get stored.
True. We notice them in the stiffness in our necks, our shoulders. Our anxiety appears in our stomach. Most of the time it's physical, and then we have to label it emotionally.
You don't need a full reset, just small interruptions.
Absolutely true. We know that 5 minutes every hour, stand up, stretch, move, enjoy your coffee with no distractions, can be as powerful as a 45-minute to 60-minute yoga class.
Wow, okay. Your brain isn't meant to process this much input.
The brain is not meant to process this much input ever. And we only use about 10 to 20% of our brains in general, but we are on so much overload that we're driving the car without any gas in it. So we definitely need those reset moments.
Busy doesn't mean effective.
Busyness is not something to pride yourself on. Rest, restore needs to happen as much as activity.
One for fun, mental clutter equal unfinished loops.
Mental clutter are huge obstacles, and so we don't actually do things as effectively as we would like. So opening up those pathways helps us be much more effective and invested in our lives.
Dr. Jen, thank you so much for Rapid Fire.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here and joining us for our spring cleaning episode. I really appreciate having you.